Hello and welcome to English Capsules. Today's capsule, Pacific Ocean. Get your coffee ready and let's get started.
Okay, so you may be wondering about the name of our capsule today, right?
I hope so.
We haven't lost it, not yet, or not so bad. So, this actually comes from a meme and is going to be like the starting point
Mhm.
of our discussion for today, right?
Yeah,
So, Pacific Ocean is because all the seas in Pacific Ocean are pronounced differently.
exactly. So we wanted to use this kind of joke to concentrate on pronunciation. And we are going to have like a debate about pronunciation, if it is important, how we can improve it, what aspects we should consider when learning another language.
So actually, this came out of a real discussion that you had,
Among
right?
colleagues, yes, we were talking about this topic because we are all teachers of English, and the three of us approach this topic in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was a good starting point for today.
Okay, I think in our case, we have like a similar approach, probably because we have shared classes, now that I think about it.
Okay, maybe.
So, when it comes to pronunciation, how do you deal with it in your classes?
Okay, I like to make some emphasis on pronunciation because I think that it is pretty crucial when it comes to communicating because um, I think that if you pronounce well, there's a great deal of possibilities of people understanding what you say, right? So um, I give my students a lot of feedback when it comes to pronunciation. And what we do, if it is like a presential class, it's
Mm-hmm.
not online class, I say the word and I have them write in their notebooks what they listen, right? What they interpret is the pronunciation. Of course, then I check, right? Many times I say the word myself, or many times I click on a link and make them listen the
Mm-hmm.
word, right? If it is an online class, what we do is we have a document that we share, my students and I paste a link so that they can listen with their headphones the pronunciation of the word. Actually, if you use Google, this is a new extension that Google has. You write the word and you write pronunciation, and you can click on a speaker, and the speaker is going to say the word aloud. So you can listen to the word and make your own and draw your own conclusions.
In my case, that I don't use Google, that I prefer to use Lingue
Mm-hmm.
or Lingue, whatever. I don't know. Some people call it one way, some people call it
Mm-hmm.
another. I call it Lingue.
Okay.
So there you also have the option of the speaker, and you have American and British pronunciation.
The same for Google. Yes.
Okay, so this brings us to another point in our discussion, right?
Yes.
That primarily, like everyone looks up to it, especially British pronunciation,
Mm-hmm.
and secondly to American pronunciation.
Yes.
However, I do believe that there are as many different types of pronunciations as speakers in the world, I guess.
Yeah. I agree.
Because we were discussing the case of India, for instance, that we were saying that is an official language there, and their pronunciation is neither British nor American, is Indian.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yes.
but you don't have an option to pronounce it like that.
No, you don't. Actually, now there is another tool that I use with some students when I want them to practice reading, for example, reading aloud. You introduce a text. It's a website, which I don't remember the name, But
if you find it interesting, maybe we can leave it in the description of the episode or
sure.
in our Instagram account.
Exactly. We will look for that and then we will include it. But it goes like this. It's a website. You include your text and then you choose the reader, the person who is going to read that text aloud. And when you choose, you can choose if it is a man, if it is a woman, and then you can choose the nationality of that person. And you have many nationalities. So it's good because you can listen to the different ways, the different ways of pronouncing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, like, I was thinking that even when we say American, British, those are like macro terms actually, because it's not the same a person from Texas than one from New York
and Mexico. Imagine Mexico is North America.
Yeah. Well, I was telling you that I had a colleague last year working with us that he was from Birmingham, and it was so hard for us to understand him sometimes. And you say it's British, yes, but it's a different accent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why do we only have these two wide options? Wide options in the sense of only those two, and a pretty clean accent in the end, because people don't speak like that.
No. Well, but going back to our debate, is it important to teach our students to pronounce or not?
I think it's a key factor, especially if we consider that English has more sounds than letters, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think it's super important because the pronunciation varies. The meaning of the word that you're saying is not the same cat as cat.
Mm-hmm.
So though they are very small differences, they are important in the end, right?
Yeah.
I think it's important. However, I don't know if it's mandatory to teach the phonemes.
Okay.
I don't know what's your position there.
What do you mean by phonemes? Let's tell our audience about phonemes. And
so phonemes are these weird symbols that you're going to find when you go to a dictionary. You have the speaker that Nati was saying, but also between bars, are these called?
Slashes.
Okay, slashes. You've got like something that looks like written in another language, actually. Mm-hmm. So those are phonemes and are the symbols that we use in order to represent sounds.
Sometimes one symbol corresponds to one letter, but many other times it's one symbol for two letters.
We're going to go deeper into phonemes on other capsules in the future, right? Just for now, that's the concept. Phonemes are the symbols that we use in order to represent sounds.
Okay. Yes.
So do you teach them?
I make some focus in some sounds which tend to be confusing, or in some letters that have many sounds in English. I show my students the phonemes, but I don't expect them to remember the phonemes or to learn them. I just want to show them that there is a way of representing the sound, and that's all. But actually, when we, as I was saying before, when we write the pronunciation of a word, either if it is me or them, we use common letters. I explained that the letters that we write for the pronunciation are letters in Spanish. Mm-hmm. How we could approach the sounds of English. Of course, it is not the same because there are many differences, because the articulation in the mouth, with the teeth, with the tongue, with the lips, it changes from one language to another, of course, right? But well, these are like different approaches.
Yeah, I tend to do the same. Like you were saying, using letters in order to represent sounds. Because I find them, it's not that I find them confusing, it's that I find it hard for them to remember. there are some symbols that I find hard to remember because I learned them when I started with phonetics, sorry, and this was at university. So for me, it's hard. I imagine for a person that has never had contact with these symbols before, it's like learning Chinese.
Yes.
So it's like, it's like what we were saying. What's the point? Like, if you're coming to classes because you want to improve your pronunciation, okay, great, I'm going to teach you. But if you have never been in contact with this, is there a point? Like, you can pronounce anyway, so
that takes us to the question of what the objective of the class is. Because if you have a student who's coming once a week and the objective the person has is to communicate, okay, maybe the person doesn't need to go deep into the phonetic symbols. You can approach pronunciation and you can give feedback on that, and you can help your student correct the pronunciation, not going into the symbols.
one thing that you got me thinking, I had a very hard time during the pandemics, not specifically during the pandemics, but afterwards, that we were in class wearing the masks. It was particularly hard because one way in which I teach them how to pronounce is by showing them where I articulate, like you were saying. So it's like you can see my tongue, my teeth, the mouth, how I move, how I breathe, because it's not the same.
Yes.
But with the mask, it was hell. There was no way you could teach them
because they couldn't see you.
They couldn't see you. So sometimes I was like, okay, I'm going to remove the mask for a second and I'm going to show you what I'm doing because clearly you don't see it.
When I explain the difference between some letters, like for example, letter D, the letter is the same, right? If you are writing or spelling, the letter is the same. It's letter D. But the pronunciation in English and in Spanish is completely different. I say, okay, stop. We are going to speak about letter D, and I show them and I make them aware about the position of the different elements that come into play when we pronounce. So we have the teeth, the tongue that doesn't, we don't see the tongue, but in Spanish we do see it. But well, so all those things, and then I give them some more details. Like for example, okay, this air that you listen, this d is called aspiration, for example. It happens with letter T also. So they start realizing and becoming aware of all these small things that come into play when you pronounce. And imagine that if you mispronounce the word day and you say they, well, then you're saying something else.
It's not the same word.
It's not the same word, exactly.
That can be a challenge for our audience. Like right now, I was thinking, can you tell us the difference between the two words that Nati was saying?
It's a good thing.
Type your answer. What do you think are the two words that Nati just said? Can you repeat them?
Yes, one is day and the other one is they. Okay, something else we can debate is how we can, or what can we do in order to improve pronunciation?
I always recommend the same thing, and especially when we're on holidays, when we come back, I realize who does what I say and who doesn't. You can surround yourself with English, even though you live in a country where you have no English speakers nearby. You can watch TV, you can listen to songs, you can go into social media. Instead of using it in Spanish, use it in English.
You can set your cell phone in English. Instead of having everything in Spanish, you can try and have it in English.
I found that amazing.
It's incredible because you learn many new words and you are in touch with the language all the time.
In my case, for example, you know that I was pregnant last year. So I downloaded this app And because my phone is in English, I have the American version. And for me, it was like, wow, because there were so many things that I didn't know, so many words that now I became familiar with them, but I had no idea what they were called before. So,
That's
I
a
mean,
good part.
even though I have been speaking English since I was 4 years old, I still learn new things, and that's amazing.
We learn new things all the time, and
Yeah.
taking advantage of technology is a great thing because now we are surrounded by technology. So you cannot tell me, oh, but I can't because I have classes once a week, so I cannot practice. That's an
Yes.
excuse because we were saying we are surrounded by technology. You can use, I don't know, well, you can listen to us in Spotify and practice your listening. You can watch a series in any of the many platforms that there are. I don't know, Netflix, Amazon, Star Plus, whatever.
Nowadays, even in your TV, because you can set your TV in original language, and sometimes I end up listening to Turkish because the novels are Turkish.
Soap operas, yes.
Sorry, soap operas.
The everything you can, if you look for a way of learning, you will find it. I'm sure you will find it. And then if you like music, for instance, you can listen to music. And I always tell my students, you can have many different purposes. You can listen just because you feel like listening, and that's all, with no objective. Or you can give yourself like an objective, like a task. Okay, I'm going to listen and I will imitate this expression. And that way is a way of improving your pronunciation because you are trying to say not one word, but you're saying maybe a phrase, maybe a sentence, an expression. And you're going to use the intonation the person said, not only in a song, but in a film, in a movie, in series, whatever.
Well, I don't know if there, but something that has become super popular this past year here are audiobooks.
Audiobooks, yeah.
So you've got many platforms like Storytel, Audible, and many more. You can listen to people reading a story, and maybe if you're not too confident, like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to understand, you can have the written version while you are listening. So it's like you're reading, but also you are hearing how that sound is pronounced, how that word is pronounced.
Yes.
So I think nowadays it's quite easy. It's not the same as, for instance, when we were learning that you didn't have access to internet,
No.
you had the cassette from your teacher.
And that's the only thing because you didn't have a cassette at home. So you were exposed to the language only when you went to the classes. This is what we were saying, that you don't need to wait until you have the class. You can work a lot before the class. And for fun, it's not like you have to be sitting down with your notebook, with your pen, or taking notes. No, maybe you are, I don't know. We're saying you're watching TV, right? It's not so hard.
Oh, and another thing that I found useful for some of my students, this is when you have certain problem, like we were saying, some people have a problem with the sound J, right? Well, now I said the letter by, like in job, joke.
With letter G, like George.
So when you confuse those sounds, a good strategy is to record yourself.
Yes. Now it's pretty easy to record yourself. I remember when I was studying at university, what I did was I wanted to improve really. Actually, I didn't want to improve. I wanted to check if I sounded well. So, perfectionist. Hashtag perfectionist. Okay. So, what I did was to record myself. As I didn't have a microphone, what I used were my headphones, and I plugged them into the jack, and then I used that as a microphone. So I would read something, a paragraph, whatever it was, and then I would listen to me, and I would try to give myself feedback, right? That was a mess. But well, it was the technology that I had at that moment. Now you can record yourself using the cell phone. You can send an audio to yourself and you can re-listen to you.
I mean, for me at least, it's super helpful. I have seen that because it's like sometimes you show, like, you model for your student as much as you want, but they don't get how they are mispronouncing. So it's super important that they can listen to themselves, that you can listen to yourself, because that's a way of improving. Because you're like, okay, so when I listen to her, it sounds like this, but then when I come here, I sound like that.
Yes, you're monitoring. You're monitoring yourself. And one last thing that I wanted to mention is that many times you can communicate with other people who are also studying English, and you can establish a connection. Maybe you already have one because maybe it is someone in your family, it's a friend, but the idea is to speak English. It doesn't matter if you do it wrong at the beginning, but if you start feeling comfortable with the language, your pronunciation is also going to improve
Yeah.
because now you will feel more relaxed and you are not going to feel so anxious. So it's a way of improving also.
So this reminded me what you were saying of a phrase that says, never make fun of someone who speaks broken English. It means they know another language.
So uh, the last thing that I have to add to that is that everything that we're mentioning is to help you improve your pronunciation, but this is for anything that you would like to learn in another language or even in your life. Be consistent.
Okay, so I think that's all for today.
Okay, so before we go, remember to subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Give love to our content and spread the word to help our channel grow.
Also, remember that you can rate our episodes and comment on each capsule. Activate the bell so that you know when our next capsule is out. And take a look at the description and our Instagram account to take more advantage of our content.
Okay, so that's all for today. Bye for now.
Bye.